I think it's devastating for the country that our Prime Minister has turned a blind eye and allowed this person to be appointed to the most prestigious diplomatic post we have on offer, despite knowing his links to this evil, vile, depraved criminal. It's completely unacceptable that he's turned a blind eye. For some reason, having links to people at the top of the Labour Party means that the Prime Minister is willing to forego and bypass any questions being asked. We look forward to seeing these documents released and the evidence brought forward. But we saw on Wednesday a confession that he knew about these links at the time he made the decision.
It is bad enough to have a government preoccupied with cleaning up its own messes. But what is worse is the reason these mistakes keep happening. Because every single one of them comes back to the judgment of one man, Keir Starmer. At a time when Britain needs a leader, we have a Prime Minister who makes the wrong decision again and again. For months, I have been pressing the Prime Minister about his decision to appoint Peter Mandelson as ambassador. And yesterday in Parliament, I finally forced him to admit the shocking truth. He knew. He knew that Mandelson had a continuing relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. He knew Mandelson had stayed in his house while Epstein was in jail for child prostitution. The Prime Minister knew all this, and yet he appointed Peter Mandelson anyway to the most prestigious job in the diplomatic service. The Prime Minister brushed aside the security warnings. He turned a blind eye to what he knew about Mandelson's association with one of the world's most notorious paedophiles. And instead of standing up and taking full responsibility for this disastrous appointment, the Prime Minister is trying to make himself out to be the victim. Nobody is buying it. This morning, cabinet ministers are out there defending the decision to appoint Peter Mandelson, still claiming that it was a rational appointment. They should be ashamed.
I think when you look at the damage that the Prime Minister's, well, this government has done to this 21% more people unemployed, our economy is being trashed. That has real life consequences for people across the country. Then you look at all of the broken promises, whether it's the farmers, whether it's the pensioners, whether it's WASPy women, whether it's anybody who pays the council tax, actually, who was told they weren't going to pay a penny more. People have got used now to the devastation of this government. But today, yet another scandal. We saw a homeless minister sacked for making people homeless. We saw an anti-corruption minister charged with corruption. We're now seeing this, a complete and utter lack of judgment. He is making an embarrassment of this country on the world stage. He's got to go.
Liberation Day. That is how Mandelson described the day of Epstein's release for prison for procuring children to be trafficked and raped. Mandelson's next message was, "How is freedom feeling?" Epstein replied, "She feels fresh, firm and creamy." Mandelson's next reply, "Naughty boy." Now, we hadn't seen this email, I'll admit, when the ambassador was appointed. But let's look at what we did know when he was appointed ambassador. We knew at that point that he had consoled this paedophile, consoled him on his being found guilty and convicted for just one of the many, many crimes he committed. We also knew that while he was Deputy Prime Minister of this country and Business and Trade Secretary, carrying the flag of our great nation on an official visit to New York, he stayed in a convicted paedophile's flat. How dare he do that while representing this country? But the idea that no one in the Cabinet Office, no one at the Department of Business and Trade, no civil servant, no political appointee knew that he'd said, "No, I don't need a hotel, thank you ever so much. I'm going to stay at my friend Epstein's house. Oh, by the way, he happens to currently be in prison, incarcerated, but I'm going to stay at his house anyway." That, to me, raises serious questions about why he was not pursued for misconduct in public office back at that point. And no one can say that the Labour government did not know, because having been a civil servant, I knew where my ministers were staying when they're abroad. Not sure they always wanted me to know, but I knew. And none of them would have ever done that.
Well, there seems to be a bit of dispute between what Number 10 is spinning out on this and what he's had to say himself on Truth. He said that many people have told him about the benefits or otherwise of this deal. The reality is we think it's wrong. We do not think that we should be giving away sovereign territory and paying for the privilege of doing so, particularly when it is of such strategic importance to our national security. It's the wrong decision, and the government should not be selling it out. So this government is not on the side of working people. Those people who work hard and do the right thing are paying more and more in tax. Those people who aren't working are getting more and more in benefits. It's not fair on people who get up early, go out and do the right thing. There's got to be rewards for those people who work hard. When you look to the Labour Party, when you look to reform, they want to go around nationalising everything. They want to increase benefits for those people who don't work. And all of that is being paid for by people who just want to get on in life, who just want to work hard, who want to do the right thing. They're paying unprecedented amounts of tax. We can't go on like this.
The victims of Epstein have lived with trauma that most of us can barely comprehend. And they've had to relive it again and again. They have seen accountability delayed and too often denied. To them, I want to say this. I am sorry. Sorry for what was done to you. Sorry that so many people with power failed you. Sorry for having believed Mandelson's lies and appointed him. And sorry that even now you're forced to watch this story unfold in public once again. But I also want to say this. In this country, we will not look away. We will not shrug our shoulders. And we will not allow the powerful to treat justice as optional. We will pursue the truth. We will uphold the integrity of public life. And we will do everything within our power and in the interests of justice to ensure accountability is delivered. That is what the public expects. That is what the victims deserve. And it is what I will do.
Is going way too slow. For those victims who have spent forever and a day now being let down by the authorities, they need the answers. This country needs to learn the lessons. And those people who failed to report this, who failed to act on things that were raised, need to be held to account. We can't go quickly enough. The government has to pull its finger out and get on with the job. I think when it comes to immigration, everything is going the wrong way. Since this government came to office, the number of people arriving illegally in this country is up 50%. The government said they were going to get rid of hotels. There are more people in those hotels. And of all of those people arriving in the country illegally, 95% of them are getting to stay. If you break into this country, you should be detained. You should be removed. No ifs, no buts. When we send that message to the world, then people will stop arriving on those small boats. Even the National Crime Agency is saying it. Everybody at home knows the only way to do it is to deter these people from getting in those boats in the first place. And when it comes to crime, we're seeing police numbers under this government, despite the fact we're paying unprecedented levels of tax, we're seeing police numbers fall. 1,300 less police officers on the streets since Labour came to office. Everyday crime surge in things like shoplifting, retail crime, off the charts at the moment. But it's no surprises. Less police on the streets, prisoners being released early, criminals being allowed back out onto the streets early is only going to have one consequence, and we're seeing it now with those crime figures. On borders, we've got a clear plan. We've done our homework. It's not a headline, it's an actual completely formed plan using some of the biggest legal minds around. Anybody who arrives in this country would be detained and would be deported and removed within a week. We've got a plan there to leave the ECHR to stop all of the legal frustrations that were previously going on. That's exactly what we do. And when it comes to policing our streets, we have a costed plan to put 10,000 more police officers on our streets, to increase the amount of stop and search, and to use all the tech available to our police officers so that they can get on with our job of keeping the streets safe.